Welcome back, my children, to the next episode of the Silmarillion. And no, I will not be reading in this voice for the whole episode. Although some of you might want me to. I'm not going to subject you to that the whole way through. Last time we met, we had worked our way through the earliest stages of this chapter. We learned the names of the Valar and the Valier in last week's episode. That was a pretty interesting chapter, but we've come to the point now of this where it says of the Maiar, and we're going to be learning more about this. As usual, if you've never tuned in one of these episodes, we've been working our way through. We worked our way through The Hobbit, The Fellowship, The Two Towers, The Return, the appendices of The Return, and now we're into the Silmarillion, and we're just working our way through. Every Monday, we do an episode. And this originally started off as a way for me to better educate myself on the Silmarillion, because I hadn't read this book since I was in my late teens, which was a long time ago. And with the Rings of Power, we started this before Rings of Power, naively thinking that we were going to get to this, and we didn't. Anyway, now we're on to it, and maybe we'll get some of it read before season 2 drops, and we can better critique the things that are being done. Or agree with, you never know. But in the meantime, this week we're on to the Maiar. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. And of course, check out all the previous episodes if you haven't already done so in the playlist. Join the Discord. Links are down below. Support with memberships or super thanks if you like this video. So, the Maiar, it says here that when the Valar came into being, other spirits whose being also began before the word, but they were of an other type, but lesser degree, it says. So they were like the Valar, but not the same. It's kind of like the the generic brand versus the name brand. I don't know. Um, it said they were known as the Maiar, or the people of the Valar, and they were basically, it says here, helpers and servants to the Valar. It has, oh, this is interesting. There is an unknown number, or at least the elves know nothing of how many of the Maiar there might be. And it says only few of them have ever had names in the tongues of the children of Iluvatar. So, for all we know, there could be a bunch of other Maiar that have never been to the realm, to Middle Earth, and therefore are unknown by the children. That's very interesting. I don't remember this part at all. Because I remember when I was younger, I was always fascinated with reading about the Maiar because it's like, oh, Gandalf and, Radagast. Who were these magical, awesome dudes? Because there is that mention, I think, at the end of in the appendices, and then there's more information in the Silmarillion. So it's like, ooh, chief among them, um, are the. Okay, I need to reread this section. Okay, so there's a bunch of names listed here, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of these, but it says here that among the Maiar of Valinor, um, these are the names that have been remembered in the histories of the Elder Days. So we've got, and again, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of these, so I'm not a Tolkien expert, guys. So please be gentle. Ilmare, the handmaid of Varda, Eonwe, the banner bearer and herald of Manwe. And it said this individual, their might in arms was surpassed by none in Arda. And it says, but all the Maiar, Ose and Uinen, are the best known to the children. Ose being a vassal of Ulmo. His spouse is Uinen, the Lady of the Seas. And the Numenorians lived under her protection. Oh, they said here the Numenorians revered her and equal to the Valar. So they really had a lot of love for Uinen, the spouse of Ose. Huh. Says here Melkor hated the sea because he could not subdue it. He tried to get Ose on his side, but Uinen was like, come over here, Ose, and let's go to Ulmo and get your soul right, brother. So it says here, Melian was the name of the Maya who served both Vana and Este, who dwelt in Lorien. Nightingales sang about her whenever she traveled or wherever she went. That's really cool. Wisest of the Maiar was Olorin, who also dwelt in Lorien, but his ways took him to the house of Niena, where he learned pity and patience. And then it says here of Melian, much is told in the Quinta Silmarillion. Okay. But of Olorin the tale does not speak, for though he loved the elves, he walked among them unseen, and they could never decipher the where came the visions and promptings of wisdoms he put into their hearts. It says in later days he was the friend of the children of Iluvatar, of all the children of Iluvatar, and took pity on their sorrows. And those who listened to him awoke from despair and put away the imaginations of darkness. Um, we're gonna learn more about that as we read on. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. There's a list of enemies here now. Excuse me. Oh, this is the end of the Valaquenta, so we'll go ahead and read this today because this isn't too much. It says this is of the enemies. So this will probably of the Maiar and of the enemies will be the name of this episode, I would imagine, because it's only these last two sections of the Valaquenta. Melkor, of course, although he forfeited the name, and the Noldor will not utter the name any longer because they suffered so much from his malice, and they have henceforth called him Morgoth, also known as the dark enemy of the world. What is this word? It says great might was given to him by Iluvatar, and he was coeval with Manwë. What does that word mean? Coeval. Coeval? Coeval? I don't know how to pronounce that. I've never seen that word before. And from great splendor, Melkor fell, Morgoth, um, began to have contempt for all things other than himself. He began to desire the light. And when he found out he could not possess it for himself alone, he descended down into darkness and became obsessed with the ruination of all. Says so great was the power of his uprising that in the ages long forgotten, he actually, it says here, was able to bring, equal strength to bear against Manwë and all of the Valar combined, and for a long time held dominion over the lands of the earth. But he was not alone, for many of the Maiar were drawn to his splendor and the days of his greatness. So when he was at his peak, and he was equal fighting on equal sides. I am so powerful that none of you can stand against me alone. It says, dreadful among these spirits were the Valaraukar, the scourges of fire that those in Middle Earth called the Balrogs, demons of terror. Among the servants, the greatest was the spirit whom the Eldar called Sauron, or Gorthar the Cruel. I don't remember that name at all. It says, in his beginning, he was known as Aule of the Maiar. Or he was of the Maiar of Aulai, sorry. I just butchered all those pronunciations. You guys can forgive me. He was of the Maiar of Aule and knew all the lore of that people, which is the forging. Remember, the ring lore. It says, in all the deeds of Melkor the Morgoth upon Arda and his vast works and in the deceits of his cunning, Sauron had a part. And it says here he was only less evil than his master in that for long he served another and not himself. But in the years after he rose like a shadow of Morgoth and a ghost of his malice and walked behind him in the same ruinous path down into the void. That's a very interesting way of putting it because essentially Sauron was kind of like the carbon copy of Morgoth, but the only reason he wasn't as powerful at the time was because he followed in Melkor's footsteps and was his servant, essentially. But once Morgoth was out of the way, and Melkor was out of the picture, Sauron finally had his chance to rise. And it's I like this part here where he was only less evil than his master in that for long he served another and not himself. So had he not wasted so much time serving another, he might have been a greater blight upon the land than he was, which was already terrifying, as we know from The Lord of the Rings. So that is the end of the Valaquenta part, and next week we will be picking up the next section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Love to hear your thoughts and comments below from those of you who are greater Tolkien scholars than I. And of course, if you enjoyed it, don't forget memberships and super chats, super thanks, all those things. Until next time, everybody, stay safe, happy reading, join the Discord. Links are down below.